Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. Today, we're going to definitely be talking about OpenAI's Operator. Did that just cancel a lot of what we were just talking about over the last 2 weeks? We're definitely going to be diving into some of the topics we've had over the last 2 weeks. That's what we're doing on this Friday show. So we'll be talking about everything from wearables. I have some information on DeepSeek that I want to, I'm sorry, not DeepSeek, Stargate, but DeepSeek as well. We talked about. We also talked about coding tools and everything that came out of that. We had a lot of follow-up from that show. That show did very well on YouTube. So we'll be talking about that, as well as everything else we talked about over the last 2 weeks, including, is AI getting too personal and comfortable? I think there might be some tie-ins there with Operator as well. So today is January 24th, 2025. It's Friday. You've made it. Welcome to the Daily AI Show. Today with us, we have Beth, Andy, Karl is back, and I'm Brian. So I made the horrible decision. You guys know what I'm about to say. Because I could tell Andy and Beth are looking at me. I made the horrible decision to try to slam a N-A-A-N avocado taco with everything seasoning on it 30 seconds before we went live. And I deeply regret that decision because now I feel like there's no way I can clear my throat. So I'm going to shut up. I have some stuff to share, but I'm going to shut up and throw it over to you guys. So where would you like to start today's comment? I love this Friday, by the way. I always love doing this every other Friday because we can go anywhere we want.
So my understanding is that Karl, because he has Pro, has Operator. Does anyone else? Because it showed up in my thing. Like I could see Operator as a choice, but I'm currently in Canada and I did not set up a VPN. So I was like, I can't use it because it's telling me that I can't do it in my region. Does
Mine
anybody
simply
else?
takes me to a landing page and says try Pro.
It's just there to introduce you to the availability of it, but it's for Pro users only right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just for our audience, Pro means, don't forget, there's a higher level than Plus now. Most of us are familiar with Plus. There's either free, Teams, Plus, Enterprise, those kind of things. But they have Pro, and that's $200 a month. The intent of that early on was to give you better access to O1, right? Like the higher levels of O1. But they did say in during their 12 days of OpenAI that no shocker here, right? If you're willing to pay $200 a month, you get first dibs. You know, used to be the Plus, used to be the $20 a month, and that is now a tier down. So one day they may be more than 200 to play. We don't know, but it makes sense. You're paying $200 a month at OpenAI, you get first dibs at some of their new stuff, and this is a clear example of that. So it kind of sucks to be now feel like you're down a level, but we do have Karl, and Karl, I know you've had you've been using Pro, right, as some of what you're doing with 0 to 60 AI and working with clients. So have you even had a chance, because you just came back in town, have you even had a chance to look at Operator at all?
So on the flight back from Orlando, what I did was I was watching, what was I watching? I was watching Inception again, and I thought, what'd be funny is if I asked Operator to log into Operator, and continuously log into Operator. Just wanted to see what that looked like, and it actually did it.
That was your first thought?
Yes.
That's where your brain went. For the first thing I want to try with Operator is see if I can break Operator.
Correct. That's what I wanted to do. So that's essentially what I did. I got in the evening, and I barely even tried it for really anything else. So what I did do is I asked ChatGPT 4o to review the blog post and then give me business opportunities that potential for Operator, and it gave me a list of really cool things to do it. So here's, why don't I share with you what I just did?
While he's doing that, let me just give you the headline, which is Operator is the first OpenAI agent. This is the year of agents. This is the first from OpenAI, and it's not limited to writing code like other agents that exist. It's a general purpose agent that can act like a human on the web. No, I don't mean behave like a human, but I mean, it can take actions like you can take on the web using its own browser and you just give it general instructions, and it'll use its reasoning capabilities and build a plan and execute that plan in order to achieve your objective. And we'll give you more details about that now.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So here we go. So what I wanted to do was one example that I thought an agent would be awesome for is I don't want to wake up at X morning at 4:30 in the morning to get into a queue to get my daughter into swimming lessons. And you have to do that about twice a year for the cities. But we have tasks for that. I don't think operator does scheduled activities. So first thing I wanted to do is just find me open swimming lessons for my daughters in rookie patrol with the city of Calgary. So what that does is this. Let's just open it completely. I believe it's using Bing browser. I think, which it does. That would be really funny if it was using Google, but so so it went to the City of Calgary website, which is awesome. In how it went to recreation services is pretty good for it to understand. Goes to register.
I'll give some background here on what it's doing, especially if you're not watching us, but just to give you a background here, because not just Sam Altman, but Sam and three others had a video about this, had a release of this yesterday, and they talked through this. But first of all, Karl's prompt was find me open swimming lessons for rookie patrol in parentheses with the city of Calgary. So that's all you gave it to begin with. And now it's thinking, as we've seen models do through the process, it is opening up that browser and going through. And what Sam and the other three gentlemen talked about yesterday is every time it makes a move, it snapshots the screen. And so it's not continuously watching. It's not looking at code on the back end. They were very clear about that for safety and security reasons. It's quite literally looking at the screen and trying to mimic what a human would do next. And then if it errors, it backs up. It might go a different direction. But that's essentially what's going on. If Karl was to take over at any point on the screen, like he might in this demo as it's working through, if he took control, which he's showing on the screen now, then operator is no longer looking or has any. It's like almost like Karl went into private mode. So there's nothing being screen captured until Karl says take back control, operator. There's no screen capturing going on. It's not continuing to watch what Karl's doing. You can imagine why that would be a big deal if Karl wanted to put in some passwords or something like that. We don't want OpenAI screen grabbing every character that he types in for a secure website or something like that. So just wanted to point that out because that was stuff I learned yesterday watching them, that it's just taking a picture every time it makes an action in order to figure out what the next action is. And it's doing that through vision. That's really the only thing going on here. So there's no back-end coding or anything like that.
Yeah, so you can see probably if you have previously registered for swimming lessons with the city, you could definitely do this faster. Like,
sure.
But what was really neat about this is you can just open a new tab and go do something else. And It will notify you once that task is complete. And you can do multiple operators at the same time, which is actually very interesting. There's actually another thing that I wanted to try today is to, we've all used either Bolt or Lovable. There's a new one called heyboss.xyz. So what I wanted to do is, hey, I want to create an app that does this. And so instead of me going to Lovable, it would do this for me and then execute it. So that's what I want to try next.
Yesterday in the demo, you're as far as doing multiple operators, and that's kind of the point, right? Is to set it and walk away until it needs the human back in the loop. Oh, by the way, it does. It definitely needs the human in the loop. It's only going to do so much, especially when it comes to exchanging money or anything like that. It's not going to proceed without asking, nor would you probably want it to, right? But yesterday they had an example of they wanted to go to dinner. They wanted to get Lakers Warriors tickets. He ordered food through DoorDash. He also ordered groceries through whatever he opened groceries through. And so he had those all concurrently running in different operators. And then once he set those tasks off and the agent off, sort of the indication was, well, look, okay, these are 4 things that you're not necessarily going to do every day. Are you going to go to a Warriors game every day? You're going to go out to dinner every day? No. But if we just extrapolate a little bit and look at future agentic tasks that you might be able to do an operator as it gets better, you can kind of imagine, I don't know what you guys think, but kind of imagine this work concept of, I come to my desk in the morning. I come literally to this desk in the morning. I work from home and I set operators up to do several things that need to happen that day over the course of the next several hours, let's say. But then there's things that are uniquely human that I need to take on myself, phone calls with people or whatever the case is. But maybe there's these things that I need to happen over time. It could be, if it's sales, it could be lead gen. If it's in marketing, it could be that. Obviously, if it's in finance, it might be running through numbers and doing things like that. And the idea that once I set it and those things are operating, that's kind of like having 4 or 5 other or 10 other assistants who are working near me that I can periodically pop into and course correct. I can give approvals to, whatever. So it's kind of like having this, you can see where it's going, as in it could have this like role of assistance sitting next to humans. And I just kind of come back in the conversations to Karl's point when it notifies me that it needs that next decision. And that's where I think this is going. You know, their demos, I think, were kind of like, they kind of missed the mark for me, but you can see.
Well, there's a couple things. So
let me point out before you go on, Karl, that what's happening on the screen here to my eye is it's looping, trying to find the specific thing that you're looking for on these programs. And I want to point out that there is, on the first page that arrived, at a search box, and it doesn't know how to use the search box. It's really just navigating the multiple pages on the website and trying to figure out if it can find that. And that's why it's taking so long. So it's not perfect, and it's not completely as facile as a human would be, importantly, because it's not using search here in this system. I'm surprised by that.
To be clear, it does know how to use search. It isn't doing it right here. But yesterday when they gave the demos and they were doing like the food order, it absolutely went through the search bar and typed in broccoli, then typed in chicken breast, then typed in whatever it did. Yeah. So I have seen that work. But it's, to your point, why did it snap a picture of this screen and not immediately think that the search bar was the best option for a specific quoted thing, rookie patrol, that Karl gave it? And I think that you're pointing out, Andy, kind of like, this is preview, this is early, this is beta, call it whatever you want, in that it's going to get better. This is the worst it'll ever be. We hear that all the time. But yeah, a human's going to look at this and go, well, that would be way faster if I just went to this search bar since it's there to make that decision.
So this is like an amazing kind of magic trick that OpenAI is doing. If you pay us 10 times as much money, you will get the worst available thing that we're going to offer first.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm jealous, but also like this is a very interesting play to give you access to be our first alpha testers.
Right. Well, here's another thing that I thought of, because you actually can't find Rookie Patrol. That's actually me, because it's once you get into the queue, and then I guess they kind of eventually found it after I had told it to. It's Swim Patrol Rookie, and then now it's probably going to ask me to log in, and I have to log in. But here's something a little bit, because I have a demo today with this group, so sign me up for updates for University District. So why I asked it for this is there's a company, it's University Properties Group, but it's the University District. And I was on their website, I think last week, and they had a sign-up bar. So this is University District. But another thought that I could do is, hey, I want to book demos for this, or find me demos for this particular product. Just go out and do it. And what's kind of neat here is I've put in the custom instructions, my first name, my last name, my email address, and my postal code already. And then it automatically fills it in. So it's like, oh, first name, last name, because if you've already put this information.
By the way, it's doing that on the screen right now for
Yeah.
Karl, for those of you who are listening.
So explain it one more time, Karl. You gave this information in the instructions, or at some other time?
Some other time in the custom instructions. So in
Gotcha.
ChatGPT, we have our custom. So this actually has its own custom instructions. And then it's consented to. I filled, which is kind of neat because right now it says, hey, I've done everything. I could ask it to do more, or I could say just submit, right? Yes, please. And then it'll subscribe, and then away it goes, right? So I was thinking, while like you probably don't want it to do everything, but what will I do? Like, for example, B2B company is, hey, I want to book demos for, book me demos for whatever product you're looking for. And then you just let operator go. And it'll reach this point, right? Hey, confirm address, confirm. So what's going to be neat is a test would be, hey, open 3 different operators, just let it go. And then it'll come back with it booking, it's done all those things, which you still have to do, but you could be doing something else. Right. I thought that was a kind of interesting way to, an interesting test to do that.
And then, Karl, before you leave this, will you just go to like where it said work for 9 seconds? Will you trill that down, or it should be that one, or maybe the next one? You should be able to see all the steps.
Yeah.
So and maybe go up a little bit to one of them where there's more steps involved. Yeah, there you go. So the cool thing is here, like on Karl's screen, what he did was he just trilled down it looks exactly like O1 when you look at the thinking that's going on behind the scenes. It just doesn't readily show that. It would like fill up the screen all the time. But if you want to see that, and now what they were showing yesterday is, like, Karl, if you just click on any one of those options in there, you can see what the screen, what operator saw. Yeah. And how it moved the mouse in reaction to what the screenshot was, which again is really, really helpful if you're using operator and it's not doing what you want. What you might be able to do is just go look at what it was thinking through the process. Yeah. And when you see the mouse move in the wrong position, okay, no, that's not what you need to do. And you can give better instructions.
Yeah.
So you're getting to see behind the scenes a little bit is my point.
I thought it was kind of neat too, because you could do something like this. Hey, I want to build an app. Go to heyboss.xyz and create this app. So I use this as an example for another prospect. So I'm just gonna put that in, and I want to see, like, for an agent to work, right? It's supposed to do things. So it's doing things, but it also, if you can do something and make it do something, I thought it's also an awesome use case. So it's like, went to Hey Boss, which is kind of the new Lovable. Let's see what it does, because I don't know what it's. So it's that's cool because it turned off the stupid pop-up. Yeah. And it understands that you go to the blank. I'm hoping it understands. I don't know. Let's see what it does.
So what's interesting about what Karl's doing right now is he's asking the agent to go and exploit another agent. and that gives you a kind of a preview of what the ultimate world of agent interoperation will be. You give your own personal agent the directions. It will then go out and engage with other agents and assemble a crew of agents, in effect, that will accomplish the objective in the most efficient and or complete and thorough way.
So what I'm going to do here is this is nice because it makes, if it doesn't log you in, let's see, you have control. Okay. Okay. So I haven't put what I've heard is once you put your login, like my Google login in here, it'll keep it similar to Google, right? It is using a Bing browser, so it'll remember your login and then it will go. So I'm not going to do that, but I think that's the pretty.
You're not going to do that on live YouTube stream?
Well, let's see what.
I'm laughing. No, I'm teasing you.
Let's see.
I don't think that's an excellent idea.
Yesterday, the guy he made a payment or whatever, and he goes, "I'm gonna have to cancel that card," and they were just laughing at him at the table because he had to put in his 3-digit security.
Yeah.
I think it was like a Divvy card where it was a one-off card or whatever. Yeah. But they were making a joke about it because he's like, "No, I'll do it so we can see this work through the process." But they were like, "Yeah, you have enough money on that card?"
Well,
so let me talk about quickly the safety features that were announced along with it. One of them is that operator asks the user to take over when inputting sensitive information, and Karl just demonstrated that. Before finalizing any significant action, such as submitting an order or sending an email, operator asks for approval, and it's limited to limited from certain sensitive tasks, such as banking transactions or those requiring high stakes decisions, like making a decision on a job application. So there's some guardrails that they put around it so that you don't get caught in something like that.
So another thought you could do is, this is the first thought one of the first thoughts after trying to break it was, wait a minute, because I don't have access to Salesforce Agentforce, could I ask my agent to log into Salesforce and run Agentforce for me?
Ooh.
Right. So we go agent to agent, and that way I don't have to do anything. Because one of the things I remember we talked about way back was like, hey, wouldn't you have a master agent to be able to run other agents? So as this thing gets smarter and better with all the research and everyone's essentially doing the work for them, wouldn't I be able to go to HubSpot eventually? Hey, I need to go to HubSpot, do this. Okay. And then all I have to do is log in and let it run, go find the website, go find all that stuff, and then have it run it. And that's sort of right.
And we've talked about that before, because are we moving toward a place where you actually don't know you don't have to know how to pull everybody's funky API interaction kind of place, because now you have your agent that can access that, figure it out, do it. Yeah.
So I'm curious, how would that impact on platform agents? I guess you could still leverage the on-platform agent, Copilot, Salesforce agent, HubSpot, Breeze, whatever the agent is for that particular platform. But could your agent, hence operator, could it do a better job? Right now, I don't think so. It'll probably mess a whole bunch of things up because it's super, super slow and latency. But do you need that task as it gets better? Do you need that task really completed right away? Could you run 5 different operators, go to Salesforce, go to HubSpot, have HubSpot edit your website, have Salesforce do a bunch of agent stuff? Do you see I think, like, if you start looking at the type of work that people will be doing, people are right. Like, things are right about one of your tasks will be to manage these agents. So you're just, hey, I need you to do this. The agent actually does the manual stuff. No more setting up triggers and everything like that through Zapier or whatever. And you can even ask this thing to go, hey, I need you to go to Zapier. I need you to build this automation for me. Oh, okay, cool. I'll do that. Or I need, like, it becomes one step removed from you actually doing the manual stuff. You're just overseeing the agent and how efficient you can get with managing. How many tabs can I open that runs multiple agents doing multiple things?
Like, not unlimited, but a high level, right? And here's the thing. This is okay. So this is going to be a throwback, since today is about looking back the last 2 weeks. Now, this is obviously a big news, so we wanted to talk about it too. But this goes back to yesterday's conversation, which was about Karl. We were talking about the new jobs report that came out from World Economic Forum. And one of the jobs that Andy was mentioning in there that is on the way out would be something like data entry. So this is really interesting what you just said, right? Because you're like, oh, I wonder if it'll just be one human's job to efficiently open and run many, many operators. And the answer is to that, yes. And it actually will be probably a good job for a while until it's also replaced by AI.
Because
right?
that's
Yes.
monkey fingers.
Right.
I mean, that is the job of monkey fingers.
So you will have humans who are very, very good and might have a title such as AI operation coordinator or AI agent coordinator. And that'll be a real thing. It might even be a well-paid job because you might have to have certain expertise of the industry you're working on, because just like a coder, how do you know where to go in and fix the problem?
Yes.
Right.
Right.
So just being a generalist probably isn't going to be nearly as valuable as if you're Beth and you deeply understand Salesforce and there's multiple operators going on. And now Beth comes in and says, okay, they hire Beth and they say, Beth, we need to make the best thing that can happen is these operators don't stop, that they keep running as efficiently as possible. But when they do get a hiccup, we need somebody with your expertise who can quickly get them back on pace so you can turn your attention. And then Beth may spend most of her day literally hopping from operator to operator to operator to operator, quickly solving things that a human is going to be able to solve. But these models will get smarter, and eventually we can imagine that that will no longer be necessary. The company will say, Beth, we love you, but we need to retrain you hopefully somewhere else, because now these operators don't mess up. They're now at 90%, ability, and there were some benchmarks that they showed yesterday. Operators like operating at, no pun intended, like 38%, but the benchmark for humans is like 76%. And I'd have to look and see exactly what that's measuring as far as working with browsers, but you can see there that there's a gap, right? I mean, as far as like, this is not the same level as human, but how quickly will that 38 gap close to set? Well, we know the answer to that. Very, very quickly this year, if not very soon thereafter, you will see massive improvements here. Now, I want to bring this up too, because like, this is important. We're talking about operator, but first of all, we always like to point out, operator is not the first thing we've seen like this. Claude came out with computer use, where it was a little different, but the same idea. If we go way back to last year, remember like baby AGI and God mode, which was the same kind of idea. The R1 as well, that Andy's holding up, the Rabbit R1. The same concept of like, I will go do these things on your behalf. And we've seen these in browsers, not quite like operators doing it, but not surprisingly, on the exact same day, but earlier in the morning, Perplexity put out this post on X, introducing Perplexity Assistant. Assistant uses reasoning, search, and apps to help with daily tasks ranging from simple questions to multi-app actions. You can book dinner, find a forgotten song, call a ride, draft emails, set reminders, and more. It's only available right now on Android, right? So they have a little promo video of what you can do with it. That assistant sounds a lot like operator.
That's the vision. And eventually I think we'll maintain a to-do list. Here are the things that I want to get done. And you'll ask, okay, take my to-do list and launch operators that will accomplish each one of them. Thank you. And then go about your business. And you can come back. And by the way, this master agent, I'm pretending that Rabbit actually has the capacity to do that.
Someday.
One day it might. But my personal agent, which is likely on my phone, right? Or on my personal computing device, or connected to my desktop somehow. That personal agent will manage the workflows like that, and it will communicate with you about those stepping points where you need to take over, in order to correct the work of one of these operating agents. And I think that's great. When we're ready to shift a little bit, I want to, maybe I'll just throw it in here while I have the floor. This release by OpenAI is really well timed, because there's a big feud underway right now that's in the news that's related to the Stargate whole investment process, and the fact that OpenAI has kind of seized the leadership position in that $500 billion mission to enable all of the platform infrastructure that's necessary to deliver on AGI and Agentic AGI. Okay, so they've been considered the leader in AI development. And this release, this new operator agent release, is really, I think, reinforcing their leadership that way. But there's competition, right? Including from X. So there's this feud between Musk and Sam Altman. Okay. And the reason this competition is so fierce is that securing investments and partnerships is more important now because of all the energy and the hardware needs that are necessary. And there's a competition for acquisition of those resources, including the money, right, to do those things. So Musk has been slamming this thing, despite the fact that he's supposed to be towing the line with Trump, right?
Yeah,
and so what he did was he, in order to discredit Altman, he resurfaced a bunch of tweets of Altman criticizing Trump. And he also claims, by the way, that the money isn't there for this Stargate thing. But then Altman posted that he recently had a change of heart about President Trump. Watching POTUS more carefully recently has recently changed my perspective on him. I wish I had done more of my own thinking, he said. I'm not going to agree with him on everything, but I think he will be incredible for the country in many ways. I don't know about many ways. I think in one way, and that is empowering OpenAI and the mission that they're on now to achieve AGI.
I agree with President Trump that I should be in charge. We totally agree on that vision.
Yeah.
Right. And then Altman also posted in response to Musk, doing all of these nasty grams to him. He said, just one more mean tweet and then maybe you'll love yourself. Okay. Well, now on the point.
Go back, because Altman had more on this. Can you pull up my screen real quick, Beth? Just ahead, on this point. So this was Elon Musk's tweet that said they don't actually have the money. That was the big one that caught my attention, right? Musk was basically, this is on Stargate, was like, they ain't got it. I have on good authority that they don't have it. So then Sam Altman comes back and says, I genuinely respect your accomplishments and think you're the most inspiring entrepreneur of our time. But then got a little more personal. He said, wrong, as you surely know. Want to come visit the first site already underway? This is great for the country. I realize what is great for the country isn't always what's optimal for your companies. But in your new role, I hope you mostly put America first.
Yeah, beautiful.
I love the shade thrown back and forth between billionaires.
Okay, and then there's another billionaire involved. Okay, so on the question of whether the money is actually there or not, Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft. Remember, Microsoft basically owns OpenAI, right? So anything that's challenging OpenAI, like X or anybody else, is going to get some pushback from Microsoft. Satya Nadella then says, I'm good for 80 billion. So
yeah, I know.
Yeah, he's basically dismissing Musk's attempts to discredit the initiative that was underway and has been endorsed in effect by Trump.
Can we pull up my screen again? Because I knew this is Stargate adjacent. So I want to, Stargate news or whatever. Sorry, hold on a second. There you go. Okay, so you know what I was curious about this, going back and forth to the money, and then also the things about what Sam Altman just said. We're already building in Texas. And I thought, you know what? We talked about this the other day. We talked about Stargate, and I was like, I kind of want to know more about this building in Texas. Where did this Stargate 1 come from, right? Like, what is this? So what you're seeing on my screen now is, well, Stargate 1. It's affectionately called that. It's not its official name, but this already exists, and this is actually an old photo. So let's zoom out a little bit, because where is this actually happening? When they reference and they say, we're already out on our way building in Texas, I was like, well, I want to know more and understand that, because what was happening prior to this? Well, this campus actually started and broke ground in 2022. It will initially be 10 buildings and then go to 20 buildings over 1,000 square acres. So let's just zoom out a little bit here and find out where this is in Texas. So this is Abilene, okay? Abilene, Texas. That's like, it's just south of it here you go, right here in the main section. So here's Abilene, okay? So it's to the northwest of Abilene, but basically that's what they call it. And if we look around here really quick, you can see pretty quickly, there ain't much going on in these flat plains and whatever of Texas. There is a ton of room to build, whoever owns this property. It's not like there's cities galore. But again, where is this? So if we scroll out a little bit more and we zoom out, we start to see Plano come into place. And then what we start to see after that is Fort Worth and Dallas, almost directly to the east. So Fort Worth and Dallas is to the east of Abilene and where this is. And it's mostly northwest or northwest of Austin. It's about 4 hours from Austin, but only about 2+ hours from Fort Worth, and probably a little bit more from Dallas, because as you can see here, Dallas is a little bit to the east of Fort Worth, but they're usually together. So is it like nowhere, Texas? I mean, it's sort of almost smack dab in the middle of it. And they go on to say, the companies that are involved in this go on to talk about how it's really well positioned due to, get this, renewable energy sources, which we just heard the new administration is certainly not in favor of. It's more of a drill baby drill type situation. But when they were putting this campus together, they expect to already start being able to do stuff with this campus in 2025. But here's the thing, because you hear like, oh, it's Stargate and there's this money and it's moved through from the government. No, this is a private company. The company's name, sorry, just going over here really quick to see if I can grab it really quick. Lancium Campus is what they call it. I think Lancium is also the name of the company. I'll have to double check that, fact check that. But you can see here in some snapshots of the construction that's going on now for, in some cases, 3 years. And then if we go over to
announcement to groundbreaking.
That started right away. Let's just scroll through this because this is a local thing. So they're doing zoom ins, but this is what it's actually looking at now. This is not like it just broke ground and they're turning over dirt.
Like the data center campus are not only about infrastructure.
These are data centers that are getting close to opening in a lot of cases. You can see here,
cloud, but a physical server center. And right now,
so a lot different than when you see in the most energy. So anyway, I just wanted to bring this up because we talked about it the other day. I don't want to, lean on this a lot, but when they talk about like Stargate and it's already happening, you're like, how the hell is it already happening? Well, this is stuff that's been in play. This data center is being built by a private company in Abilene. They secured the site a long time ago, 3 years ago, but it's being used as the first site as part of what they call this Stargate project. So I just wanted to clear that up for anybody, because I know I had questions about it. And also I was like, I majored in geography, so I'm always curious about where things are physically in the world. And so I was like, well, where could I go there? Could I get there? What's around it or whatever? And so there you go. That's where Stargate is starting out. But of course, they're talking about many, many other campuses around the country. But this is basically called a Stargate 1, Campus 1, or whatever they call it. So interesting nonetheless. Apparently not.
No.
but generally by the silence, I'm the only one that cared. Where Stargate is. It's okay.
No, I think it's really interesting. I think the choice of Texas, I assume the choice of Texas was because Texas played a big part in the administration, than the current administration being elected. But given how far along these are, that couldn't have been like the main thing. So and Gareth in the chat is saying, yes, that's middle of nowhere. So we do know that there are people who are familiar with that area of Texas. Mm-hmm. The question is, like, are the people who live there as happy about it, or is that
it's going to bring a lot of jobs? Abilene is not happy about it. I don't think Abilene's a huge town. We saw it on the map there, and I was watching local news reports about it. I'm sure there's dissenting. I get that, but like any massive major project, right? It's going to bring jobs. It's going to bring people into that town. It's putting that town on that map. They were just saying locally how much it was nice to see Abilene being named in these, since the inauguration and stuff like that, and how that brings people like me who genuinely get curious and go, well, what's this all about? And it may bring tourism in the long term. It may bring lots of new jobs, and it may become, another tech hub. So it could have a lot of positive impacts for that city. I guess we'll find out. But when you look at the thoroughfares, it's right off of I-20. So
I want to weave away from this now, but the connection is that maybe we don't need all this $500 billion of investment in order to achieve AI. And it's in
AGI,
but even AI delivery to the consuming public and to enterprises globally. And here's the thing, and it's a DeepSeek related thing. right? So there are perturbations happening, and I'm gonna read from something here, which is called Blind, which is a verified employees of certain companies, of any company. You can verify that you work at this company, and you can post in there. And its main intent is to kind of give you an inside view of what's happening inside that company. So this is a post from somebody who's a verified Meta AI employee. And it says this: Meta Gen AI org is in panic mode. That's his post. And it started with DeepSeek v3, which made Llama 4 already behind in benchmarks. Adding insult to injury was the unknown Chinese company with the 5.5 million training budget. I'm still quoting from the post. Engineers are moving frantically to dissect DeepSeek and copy anything and everything we can from it. I'm not even exaggerating. Management is worried about justifying the massive cost of the Gen AI org in Meta. And DeepSeek R1 made things even scarier. I can't reveal confidential info, but it'll soon be public. Okay, then the import of that is that the Chinese were able to achieve something that would normally cost the investment in infrastructure to build a huge data center. They were able to do it for $5 million. That's not even a fraction of the cost of the concrete to pour into those data centers. And then now here's another key bit of news. There is a unit within Berkeley Sky Labs called Nova Sky, and they released Sky T1 32 billion preview. It was trained for $450 using 8 NVIDIA H100 GPUs, showcasing the efficiency and leveraging computational resources that are available if you just do things in a clever and innovative way. And that particular model excels in mathematical reasoning and coding tasks, outperforming early versions of OpenAI's O1 on math, on live code bench, and it has limitations in other areas, but those things can be surmounted when you're spending only $500 in compute costs. So, wow, do we really need to make these huge investments if Berkeley can turn around and deliver something that's a replicant of what you're building O1 for that tiny fraction of it? And can't competition in China, in Bangladesh do the same thing? So that's, I think, important. This is the DeepSeek perturbation of the current understanding of what it really takes to achieve AGI.
Right, because like you can't see the box that you're in, right? So of course we needed billionaires to be able to fund this, because this was a pie in the sky. Like, we have no idea what's going to happen. And you've heard of, like, from all of the frontier people, we believe that if you just throw more compute at it, right, we'll be able to get further and further, which is why, so this model was 10 billion, next model is going to be 100 billion, the model after that, right, we're going to have $1 trillion models, because that's the box they're in, right? So now, like, the good news is that you have billionaires willing to do this. The bad news is that your billionaires willing to do this, right? Like, let's now see what you can do if you restrict the resources available. Right. And that was that $450 story, which was wild.
It's not the billionaires' money that's investing in this.
True.
They're getting others to invest in it, and they're keeping their billions. There's no doubt in my mind about that.
But my understanding is that that's a billionaire's game. Like, I don't think I get to go and say, yo, if you just give me like 500 billion, I realize I don't even have one, but you should totally trust me. Like, I don't think you get in the door unless you're one of them. But
well, there's a good point. You don't get in the door, right? You don't even get the invitation to the party to have the conversation about, things are happening.
Let me just add a couple of things about the brilliance of the Berkeley Nova Sky team. Here's the technical innovations that they did. They used synthetic data, by the way, using, as others did, including DeepSeek, Alibaba's QWQ 32 billion preview model, and then refined it by combining the synthetic data generation from that with OpenAI's GPT-4o mini. Remember, they're using small models to do this, to generate the data. They optimize data scaling with rejection sampling to enhance data quality. And then they use sparse computing methods and LoRa to reduce the computational overhead. That's how they got the efficient achievement of a model that is at parity with O1 on certain benchmarks.
By the way, this is just more of a quick news thing, but it kind of goes in line with what you're talking about, Andy. Sam Altman just recently announced that O3 Mini will be available to free ChatGPT accounts. That's a big deal. Now, I'm sure it'll have massive usage limits. It'll be capped very quickly. You might be able to use it 5 times a month or something like that. But is that a reaction? Is that something OpenAI would have done? Is that a reaction to the DeepSeeks and things like that, where these models are running cheaper, faster? But if you're capable of even giving O3 Mini, either OpenAI is willing to do that at a massive loss to them, or they've gotten O3 Mini to a point where it's very cheap to run, because you just don't give away something that's going to cost you billions and billions unless you totally see the other side of that. Like 1-800-CHAT-GPT, they're probably willing to lose money. It's a loss leader for them in a lot of ways, right? Free GPT accounts. Well, if I'm not paying, then and I'm running these iterations through 0.40, that costs money. But I would imagine that O3 Mini would have had a higher cost. It can't be that high if they're already saying they're going to give it to free users. And of course, paid users and pro users will have more access to it. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because you're talking about these cheaper models running things cheaper. I think the same thing is obviously happening inside of OpenAI, and they're pushing on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can't be that much more, because if we look at their previous behavior, Sora was the model that they couldn't figure out how to run less expensive. Like, what we heard was the reason that Sora didn't immediately jump out, also people walking through walls, and it wasn't that great, but that it was really expensive to run, so they had to go back to the drawing board and figure out something else.
Yep.
So I agree, but it can't be that much more expensive, or they wouldn't be doing it, I think.
And here's another one I talked about. Thinking Experimental 01-21. That's its full name, okay? Because its most iteration came out. It is currently free to use. You literally just have to go to Google's AI Studio, which you can get to with your own Google sign-in or whatever, and you can use that model. I put it up against Ethan Mollick's last tense post he had about DeepSeek and something he asked it to do. I read the entire DeepSeek. His thing was about, it's hard to not see it as a human when it gives you very human-like responses about, well, let me see about this. Let me think about it this way. That was the way DeepSeek is programmed to speak. I put the same question into Gemini, and I read both of them, and I will tell you, I think Gemini's is better, hands down, when you look through the reasoning of how it went through this idea, which was basically to come back with a one-word answer, and you would have to go to Ethan Mollick's. Talk about words that I didn't know what they meant. I had to go to Ethan Mollick. What is this word? Gemini, luckily, in the thinking, defined the word for me, so I knew what I was even doing. But you can go check that out outside of the show. But anyway, I just want to bring that up because, again, free access to it. Is Google losing billions on this? I don't think so.
Let me provide a counterpoint to the premise that I was putting forward, which is that you don't need the huge investments and you don't need the big data centers to do this.
But we will need
the counterpoint is that
do the next thing.
What we're seeing is you're seeing distillation of the big models down to or the use of the big models to train smaller models that can perform narrowly at the benchmarks. Right. But the general purpose AGI capable models probably still require the very big investments. And I want to give you an example of that or a verification of that. There's a new benchmark for the highest level frontier models now. It's called the Humanity's Last Exam. It's like humanity desperately putting forward a test that AIs can't really accomplish very well.
That's not foreshadowing or anything, right? Like,
no, they call it Humanity's Last Exam. Every public available flagship AI system scores below 11% on it right now. Okay. And it's a benchmark that includes thousands of questions crowdsourced in multiple formats. And so the AIs don't have this broad general capability. Now, it's probably true, as we talked about on the show yesterday, I think, it's probably true that the biggest models that require the biggest investment in the largest compute infrastructure and the largest parameter sets, those models are being kept behind the scenes to train these smaller models for commercial purposes. But the race that's really underway is for the big guns. And those big guns can't yet even accomplish the humanity's last exam. And that's the kind of test that, once you get to 75% performance on humanity's last exam, that one didn't cost $450 to build. The $450 was Nova Sky's lab doing a distillation of a process. Let's not say it's this pure distillation of another model. It's training a new model, but it's using the data that's generated by models that cost way more for them to build.
Which was, I feel like that was foreshadowed maybe in Life 3.0 or something like that. Like there was a certain level of humans' ability to not discern what would get the best result from the model, and therefore we had to shove everything in, right? Like bring everything you got, we're going to do the whole thing, we're going to see what we get out of it. And
I lost Beth there. She froze.
That was really effective.
Oh,
that's she's back.
Beth, repeat what you said because you completely froze there for a while.
Last 15 seconds.
Okay. Most humans are not going to be able to like observe what was really effective in that, like training everything and what wasn't. But AI is. AI can look at that and say, okay, we think that this part of it was really effective, and now that's smaller. We can make more of that. I think that may be part of what's happening. But the other thing that's coming up in the chat and that I'm also thinking is like, this feels to a certain extent like, look, for $50.99, you can get the most amazing, like every size of socket wrench and every like size of star and all of that. Or you could go to the thing and get like a screwdriver that lets you flip between like flat and like the main size of Phillips. So I feel like what we're seeing is, yes, give me the flat and the main size of Phillips, and I'll go to the library to use everything else, right? Like that's sort of a main level common usage for most people.
But before we wrap, I'm wanting Karl to tell us what he's done with Operator.
What have you been doing?
I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I gotta drop. So everybody have a great weekend, and you guys can wrap things up. But bye everybody for the weekend.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks.
Okay, so what I was initially doing was I logged into my HubSpot, which let's see if it still runs it because I was trying to do it. I logged into my HubSpot, essentially asked it to build a new landing page. I had to put in my credentials. It got to the landing page, and then obviously there's too many nuances in HubSpot itself for it to understand. So for example, one of the landing pages, our templates had an embed code in it. So it had to remove the embed first to make it blank. I don't know why we did that, but it couldn't find the embed where to remove the embed. It tried a couple things, which was really neat. Tried the global settings. So it got me a couple of things to think about. So it got me to the landing page. It's got me to the templates. I was thinking, we talked about how a new job type, like an AI operator or manager who has understanding of, let's say, CMSs. So maybe the job doesn't change. So it's like, hey, you are a web developer, you are a marketer, whatever. But I think the skill to understand is, how do I use operators to, in the beginning, make me more efficient, but two, let the operator as it gets better. Because what I was doing is I was just going in and out of operators. So I'd be like, oh, take control because I have to plug it in, go back. Oh, take control, edit this, go back. Do this, go back. Like that's where it is right now because I have to take control multiple times. But then I don't need to necessarily, as it gets better, there will be less and less and less I need to take control. and just give it instructions, right? And we obviously, this is running GPT 4.0. What happens when it starts running 01, 03 mini like that?
Right.
Even better. The second thing is, I nearly guarantee this. Next year, 6 months, I don't know when, startup, smaller companies will not need the headcount. That was kind of like a, right now they don't really need as much, but there's a lot of tools you have to learn. With this, you don't. You can have 10 different operators running, logging into your Google account, logging into your CMS, logging into whatever system you need to execute the tasks. You just need to oversee it. So you'll have like one or two people overseeing with expertise in that area, having multiple operators do that. I don't know what the impact will be on larger companies and how, because based on adoption and all that kind of stuff, then it'll be interesting. And then what I did was, because I don't have access to HubSpot Breeze necessarily on my account, but I feel that I can probably clunky my way through building a HubSpot Breeze agent.
Right.
What's that going to look like in 6 months? So how will that interact between in-platform agent, personal agent? Do we need an in-platform agent? Maybe we do. Like, what does that look like? Will people start building for agents rather than for people? I don't know what that means, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's already a number of startups that are providing sort of turnkey marketing systems to small businesses that are agentic to some degree. But when you get this kind of operator level reasoning agent with the ability not to using APIs to basic marketing platforms, but instead to actually work through those wherever they are with credentials, you're going to see that the marketing managers in companies are not so needed anymore, for sure.
Well, and yeah, I mean, I'm wondering, is this the new branding, or do we not need the new branding? Right? We did an interview with Marcus Sheridan. Karl actually did the interview. Can Marcus then license his knowledge, experience, and so now I could have the Marcus Sheridan
method,
branded
Marcus Sheridan method,
knowledge, but can I also do that because he's written books and written stuff, right? So I can do that without the brand kind of thing. It's a very interesting way we're moving forward.
Yeah.
I think what we're seeing here is really at the starting point of something different. I think we all see here, those who in the chat, love to know your thoughts, but there is you can see literally the disruption in the economy that's going to happen. I don't know what the skill set required, but I really highly believe you better learn how to start. It's not building automation agents. You got to actually learn I think you have to start learning operator, like what that actually means for whatever the other companies will come up with. They will come up with their version, but it's like, wait a minute, if I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. It's a completely new skill set, because it's like, wait, I can use operator to do this. But I'm still thinking of current technology. What can I possibly do deployed 20x, 30x times with this? I don't know. And then what will be built on top of that, right? So I think it's a pretty cool moment to see what you can do right now.
So
okay, take us home, Beth. Take us home.
Yeah, I just want to say, I will take us home. What we have been talking about in the last couple days is the challenges that people are having in job search, right? How do you differentiate yourself? There are a ton of jobs that somehow seem to be only needing fewer people now, even though that's not the major story. It is the major story if you're searching for those jobs. It has long been true that as a startup or a software developer that you build in public, right? So that you share your whole experience of like, this is my MVP, would love to get feedback on it, right? So that by the time you're in a place where you need people to talk about what you're building, you have this audience. I firmly believe that's true for the learning curve that AI is putting us all in as well. So I would heavily encourage everybody to learn in public, to like find a way to play with Operator, to find a way to play with these things. This is the job skill that I have, that I know. These are the ways that I think I can build something that would help me in this job, because that's going to start to differentiate you. And on that note, we have more great shows next week.
Let me just say, in response to some of the chat questions, yes, OpenAI is going to make Operator available to Plus users. So for $20 a month, you'll have access to Operator. It's just they're putting it out to the pro users first to, knock off the rough edges of it.
For the low price of $200 a month. Okay. Thanks, everybody. I hope you have a great weekend.
Everybody.
And we'll see you next week.